is stepping down. We'll tell you why. And a live report from tonight's City Council meeting. Among the issues, review committees handling police brutality complaints and a proposed hike in cemetery burial fees. We'll have these stories and much more in 1/2 hour.
All right. Thank you, John.
Thanks. Now, remember, this next story is tongue-in-cheek. Finally, tonight, if you're looking for something a little different to serve up for dinner, here's a suggestion, maybe. These folks are dining on a delicacy at a little hole-in-the-wall restaurant in downtown Canton. What they cook up here at mealtime usually comes out of a hole in the wall. Well, this is the only eatery in the world where the specialty of the house is rat. 30 varieties, to be exact. There was rat with brown rice, fried rat, barbecue rat, and rat fried rice. Now, if you're not sure about eating rat, believe it or not, it is actually good for you. It's full of calcium and vitamin E, and it can fight off hair loss, hypertension, and senility, although I would argue you have to be crazy to eat it, but that's another thing.
I'm going to stick with my pork chop. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Coming up on tomorrow's Live at 5, we'll check in with the Animal Rescue League to meet some pets looking for a home.
And in the entertainment report, we'll introduce you to the big winners in this year's Golden Globe Awards. Be sure to join us for Tuesday's Live at 5. Now, as we know, Golden Globe Awards a lot of times goes on to the Oscar nominations.
Right.
So
could get a double winning.
That's right. That'll be interesting.
Time now for NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Have a good night, and we'll see you here tomorrow live at 5.
Good night, everyone.
The Japanese Prime Minister says there is no deal to buy more American cars, while the Speaker of the Japanese Parliament belittles American workers.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening. When President Bush left Japan 10 days ago, he tried to make the best of a modest deal, announcing that the Japanese had agreed to buy more American cars and auto parts. But now the Japanese Prime Minister and the head of Toyota say they didn't commit to buy anything. They were only talking about targets. NBC's John Cochran is at the White House tonight. Andrea Mitchell is in Washington, where all of this goes directly into the American political stew. John, you begin, please.
Tom, on the campaign trail, the president has warned voters not to heed the siren call of protectionism against Japan. But after today, that siren is going to sound a lot louder, and the Japanese have only themselves to blame.
The president waved off questions about the Japanese, who have repeatedly slam-dunked him over the past 24 hours. Take his friend Prime Minister Miyazawa, who agreed to some trade concessions during Bush's visit, but on his return, Bush overplayed what he actually got.
Japanese automakers agreed over the next 3 years to increase their purchase of American-made parts from $9 billion to $19 billion.
Now, Miyazawa, who is in big political trouble at home, is downplaying his agreement with Bush with the reminder that it is only a target rather than a firm promise. The same applies to American cars. Toyota set a target of selling GM cars. Now Toyota says it is too much to say we will actually sell them. Even before Japan started backtracking, Republican challenger Pat Buchanan belittled Bush's Japan talks. Buchanan's sister is also his campaign manager.
Well, they're outrageous. They're absolutely outrageous, and the president should demand an apology. He has gone over there. He tried to deal with them fairly. He did not bring anything home. He was snookered by them.
While in Japan, Bush had to listen to patronizing remarks from Miyazawa, who said he felt sorry for the U.S. because it is inflicted with homeless people, AIDS, and poor education. Now, the Speaker of the Japanese House of Representatives has gone further, saying American workers don't work but demand high pay. If America doesn't watch out, it is going to be judged as finished by the world.
It tells you that when the president left Japan, the Japanese were laughing at us. Laughing at the trip, laughing at America, belittling America.
The Japanese may sincerely feel they're superior at many things, but if they really want to avoid a trade war than the United States, then they have a lot to learn about public relations. Tom?
Thank you, John. Andrea Mitchell, this latest view of America from Japan certainly didn't go unnoticed by Democrats.
That's right, Tom. When it comes to trade, some of the Democrats are bashing Japan. Some are bashing each other, but they're all bashing the president's policies. Iowa Senator Tom Harkin claimed today that he could balance the trade deficit
By lowering long-term interest rates, an industrial strategy, reciprocity in trade.
His blueprint was short on specifics. In down-and-out New Hampshire, some of the Democrats seem to be running against Japan as much as against each other. in a debate broadcast statewide last night.
Yes, I think we need to be tough with Japan. They have mercantilist, protectionist policies that make it difficult not just for us to sell into their marketplace, but for the rest of the world to survive as well.
Well, Senator Kerry, I want to show you, you're running an ad up here. You're running an ad. You're on a hockey rink, and I'll tell you, you're skating on thin ice.
The ad tries to exploit anger against Japan without mentioning that Kerry voted to speed up trade talks with Mexico. Not protectionist enough to suit Harkin, too protectionist for free traders Paul Tsongas and Bill Clinton.
Very simple. I mean, the ad that was used was a hockey rink, and the issue was defending our goal. Any Bobby Orr fan can tell you, you don't win a hockey game unless you score.
I agree with Senator Tsongas. It's our problem. It's because we don't organize to compete and win.
The trade issue can cut both ways in New Hampshire. High-tech companies like Pixelworks and Hudson are surviving because of their export business. Domestic sales are flat.
We believe we can outdo the Japanese in anything in high-tech.
Unmistakably.
Japan bashing is almost like saying we're not as good as them, so let's protect ourselves from them.
But other companies like Itran in Manchester are blocked by Japan's barriers.
We receive a lot of business from Korea, from Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia.
But not Japan.
Not Japan. We've tried to ship our products in Japan. It's a rather tough community to do business.
And there's more at stake than just this primary. If Japan bashing works in New Hampshire, will we give a big boost to protectionist legislation now pending in Congress? Tom?
Thanks, Andrea. The gloomy state of the American economy provided a somber background for today's holiday honoring Martin Luther King, Jr. His widow called for the direct abolition of poverty. And as NBC's Deborah Roberts tells us now, the dream of Dr. King remains just that.
We'll be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
25 years after Dr. King's famous speech, freedom in America is far from plentiful. Ask this man who's fighting another cold day on the streets.
I'm homeless, but I'm trying to get back on my feet.
Ask the newly unemployed, like James and Angela, who've gone from the streets to a shelter. And Debbie, a single mother who isn't free to care for her 2 children without the help of a shelter.
His birthday takes second priority to what I'm going through right now, because my basic priority is me and mine.
Trying to make it.
Trying to make it, yes.
King dreamed of racial equality, but today 9 million Americans dream mainly of jobs, twice the number out of work since King died. And others dream of life without gunfire. U.S. homicides are at an all-time high. Young black men the likeliest victims. King's daughter thinks her father would be worried.
I think he would challenge our government to begin to take care of social issues at home, economic issues at home, which we're not doing.
King's widow says there's little to celebrate on his 63rd birthday, only concern for a troubled nation.
Before I had to sit on the back of the bus, you see. I couldn't go to the baseball game. Now I don't have the money to do the things that I wanted to do.
But I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Deborah Roberts, NBC News, Atlanta.
And in recent months, there has also been a revival of racial violence, black and white. Today in Denver, of all places, it looked like a scene from the early 60s. NBC's Roger O'Neill is there tonight.
It was the kind of violence and hatred Martin Luther King Jr. preached against.
Stop the mace.
Keep this dream alive!
20,000 supporters of Dr. King marched peacefully to a city park. The Klan was rallying at the state capitol 2 blocks away. And thousands of police were on hand to keep the 2 groups apart. A federal judge ruled Friday the Klan had a right to speak, the First Amendment, even though the governor had revoked its original permit. There have been previous confrontations in Denver with the Klan, which has had an active recruitment campaign here. When the Klan rally ended and its small group of supporters tried to leave, they were pelted with rocks, bottles, and snowballs. coming from the supporters of Dr. King, who preached nonviolence. But the mere presence of the Klan, especially on this day, provoked strong reaction.
Martin Luther King, he died for peace. You know, even at this, he's moved. We didn't come all the way for this. Don't do it.
There were scores of arrests, police officers hurt, and much hatred. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Denver.
When Nightly News continues in a moment, the latest in street crime, carjacking, stealing your car when you're in the driver's seat.
In recent years, doctors have discovered a flaw in eggs. They're extremely high in cholesterol, and a diet high in cholesterol and fat can contribute to the risk of heart disease. Nutritionists at Fleischmann's have found a way to overcome this flaw with Fleischmann's Egg Beaters, the only one that's 99% real egg with zero cholesterol and zero saturated fat. Next time you love an egg, crack open a carton. Fleischmann's Egg Beaters, the great-tasting egg without a flaw.
I don't care what they call this new strain of flu. I still feel awful. But I don't take aspirin or Tylenol anymore. Today my choice is Advil. Advil reduces my fever and relieves my body aches. Advil, tablets and caplets, advanced medicine for pain.
Campbell's heard your healthy requests.
Low fat.
Less salt.
But lots of taste.
Here's our answer. New Campbell's Healthy Request ready-to-serve soups. All the great taste you want without some things you don't. New Campbell's Healthy Request. And healthy.
A new crime in America, carjacking. FBI statistics show that automobile thefts jumped 50% in the last decade. Well, now, there's a new way to steal your car. NBC's Robert Hager tonight.
It's called carjacking, stealing a car from its driver at gunpoint instead of stealing an unattended car. And it happens in unexpected places, like this quiet suburban neighborhood in Alexandria, Virginia. Mike Wargo recalls how he had just pulled his car in front of his townhouse.
I opened up the door, and the first thing I heard was this man saying, "Give me your keys." I turned around at that point. I was still in the car, and all I could see was a long-barreled rifle. I got out of the car. The same thing he said to me. He says, "Give me your keys. I'm taking your car. Turn around and just keep right on walking." I turned around, kept right on walking.
The thief sped off with Wargo's BMW. In New York, a $100,000 Porsche like this was stolen at a stoplight. Its owner, Steve Tenzer.
A young fella, couldn't be more than 18 years old, rips open the door, sits in the car, pulls an automatic weapon out, sticks it to my temple and says, "Out of the car, mother, or die." At that point, I didn't know what to do. Then my driver's door rips open, and there's another guy that says he means it. And I said, "Car is yours."
In New York, there are now more than 1,000 cases of carjacking a year. In Detroit, there were 74 in 1 week. This man, Henry Griffin, was shot and killed as thieves stole his Cadillac. Authorities can only guess why carjacking is on the increase, but it may be because breaking into a car can damage it, or it may simply be because there's so many more guns around nowadays. What is known, the thieves mean business.
This happened in all of 10, 15 seconds, and all I remember was the sight of this silver gun right here, and I'm like, oh my God. I thought I was gonna die.
Authorities don't know how to stop carjackings. They can only warn drivers to constantly be alert. Robert Hager, NBC News, Washington.
In medical news tonight, new questions about the safety of the world's best selling sleeping pill, Halcion. Its manufacturer, the Upjohn Company, has been accused of concealing important test data. NBC's medical correspondent is Robert Bazell.
Millions of people around the world take Halcion to go to sleep. The drug generates hundreds of millions of dollars a year for Upjohn. A Scottish psychiatrist who has examined thousands of pages of research says Upjohn fraudulently withheld information about harmful side effects.
Quite simply, the summaries that it sent to the FDA and regulatory agencies do not truthfully reflect what was found in the original medical reports.
Oswald already has persuaded the British equivalent of the FDA to ban Halcion. In advertisements for physicians, Upjohn says Halcion brings on sound sleep, but does not cause daytime drowsiness. The information provided to doctors spells out reported side effects, including amnesia, disorientation, mania, delusions, and aggressiveness. Upjohn has always maintained that these incidents are no more common with Halcion than with other sleeping pills. Oswald says he first thought Upjohn had not done enough studies of the problems.
But I was wrong in my assumption. They had done the research and they had found all these troubles but kept them secret.
Naga Wakezer of Kansas City is accused of murdering her 8-year-old son. Her lawyers say they will claim that Halcion caused her to become psychotic. Such cases are multiplying. Prosecutors dropped charges against Isla Gunberg in Utah after she claimed addiction to Halcion made her kill her mother. She then sued Upjohn. It was that suit which brought to light the papers, which Oswald says shows that Upjohn withheld information. Officials of the Upjohn Company released a statement today denying Oswald's charges and threatening to sue him for spreading false information. The FDA had no comment, other than to say it is looking into the allegations. Robert Bazell, NBC News, New York.
In France tonight, rescue workers report some survivors in the crash of an Airbus jetliner with 96 passengers and crew on board. The plane on a domestic flight went down in the mountains just south of Strasbourg.
The new baby was up all night. Now you gotta make the morning right. Folgers always come through. It's decaffeinated too. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Folgers decaffeinated uses mountain-grown beans because they have more aroma than lower-level beans. And you need great aroma to wake you up.
Now you're off to a great start, 'cause Folgers warmed your heart. What a wonderful way to let the sun shine on your day. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
When you're all stuffed up and use an ordinary nasal spray, it drips into your tissue where it can't help you breathe. But not Sinex Ultrafine Mist. Its medicine stays where you need it, so you can breathe the way you want to. We don't drip down, we clear up.
Don't get hit by an annual fee. Carry the card that doesn't charge one. And keep yourself out of the hole. It pays to discover.
Sure, plums are wonderful, but did you know ounce for ounce you get more vitamins and minerals after plums become prunes?
Sweet, delicious California prunes. Find out how good they really are.
Our daily difference now. In the 90s, America pays a high price for its love affair with the automobile. Billions of gallons of gasoline, tons of emissions. But California and other states now are moving toward requiring a gasless, all-electric car. NBC's George Lewis took a spin.
Feels great. I really thought that I'd noticed the heavy battery pack, but the center of gravity feels just fine. It accelerates pretty well.
Norma Gurovich works for the State of Arizona Department of Commerce. She's test driving an electric van distributed by GMC dealers because the state is considering buying the van.
We've got to start getting them because they can do so much for our air pollution, so much for our energy independence.
In Phoenix, the electric company, Arizona Public Service, has a fleet of electric vehicles. Utilities see electric transportation as a new source of revenue, one with no exhaust pipes and no fumes. But right now, there are drawbacks. Electric cars are more expensive than gas models. Their performance tends to be sluggish, and they have to be plugged in for a recharge every 40 to 60 miles. But Ray Hobbs, who runs the electric vehicle program for Arizona Public Service, says the cars are ideal for people who drive short distances on regular routes.
I drive between 60 and 80 miles a day in an electric vehicle, and it's very comfortable.
The average driver might not feel comfortable until performance improves. That's happening. This experimental electric car recently demonstrated a top speed of 87 miles an hour and a 200-mile range. It's powered by something called a zinc air battery, not yet on the market.
Take a look at EchoStar's distinctive new body style, starting with...
But major automakers think they can sell electrics even with present battery technology. At auto shows, they're touting models they say will be out in limited quantities in the next couple of years. General Motors' sporty two-seater, the Impact, is expected to be the first mass-produced electric in showrooms by the mid-90s.
Nice-looking automobile.
Scott Cornell, a phone company engineer from Pleasant Hill, California, couldn't wait. He bought the parts and converted 2 cars to electricity.
He says his enthusiasm is rubbing off on others.
Somebody will come up alongside and say, is that really electric? You know, wow, I didn't know those were around.
Cornell commutes to his job 20 miles away. His wife, Anna, uses her electric car for household errands. The short range doesn't bother either of them.
I don't really go that far in my driving.
If you're not mechanically inclined, there are companies specializing in electric car conversions. Solar Electric of Santa Rosa, California projects sales of 200 vehicles this year, starting at about $20,000 apiece. I borrowed one of their cars for a test drive, running my 2 daughters to school. In freeway traffic and on LA city streets, the car did okay. But on the steep hill up to my youngest daughter's school, it slowed down to a 15-mile-an-hour creep. Even if we were fighting smog, the drivers stacked up behind us were impatient.
Yeah, go ahead.
We finally made it to school, where the car was an instant show-and-tell sensation.
See all those batteries?
By the time these kids grow up, there could be hundreds of thousands of electric cars on the highways. A bunch of 6th graders looking at their future. George Lewis, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Well, Nightly News continues in a moment, snatching victory from the jaws of recession.
I have just the thing for that cold.
Most kids think that medicine has to taste bad. But there's one cold medicine that relieves both kids and colds. Great flavored Dimetapp Elixir. Recommended most by pediatricians and pharmacists. After all, a cold medicine can't work if you can't get it down.
You like Dimetapp?
Dimetapp Elixir and Dimetapp DM for colds with coughs. Works as good as it tastes.
Recently, DuPont announced that its energy unit Conoco would pioneer the use of new double-hold oil tankers in order to safeguard the environment. The response has been overwhelmingly positive. DuPont, better things for better living.
You know, it's not something we talk about.
Then don't talk about it.
But when Raymond gets,
Gets what?
you know, constipated.
What?
I give him Phillips Milk of Magnesia.
Put that away.
Phillips works overnight and immediately starts soothing the stomach acid Ray sometimes gets when he's feeling...
Oh, Maureen.
Well, it's true, honey.
Only Phillips immediately starts soothing your upset stomach and then relieves constipation overnight.
It can happen to anybody.
But you don't even know these people.
What you are about to see will bring tears to your eyes. As close as you can get to real tears, because Murine with Natural Tears formula is closer to your real tears than any other eye drop. Murine Natural Tears formula.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
Amid the pain of layoffs and economic hard times in this country, one can see a natural law at work, the survival of the fittest. For the fortunate few, hardship becomes opportunity. NBC's Jim Cummins with some success stories.
As the cutbacks, shakeouts, layoffs, and downsizing in American industry relentlessly continue, some victims are not waiting for their unemployment benefits to run out.
And you just have to find that niche that takes your talents and applies them in a way that people are willing to pay you profitably to do it.
Lud Denny found his niche. After he lost his job as a pilot for Braniff Airlines and lost his money during the Texas oil bust, he came up with an idea. Why not make football trading cards, since nobody else does? In less than 3 years, he and his business are worth millions.
I wasn't at all intimidated by the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. I just went out and did it.
And you didn't know what you were doing when you started, right?
Heck no, neither did Alexander Graham Bell, because nobody would make a telephone before.
When the Dallas Times-Herald folded last month, hundreds of people were laid off, including sports columnist Skip Bayless, who recounted his troubles on talk radio.
First call out of the box was a guy who said, "Hey, Skip, is there any way you could keep writing your column and fax it to me every night?"
So he did, and in the first 2.5 weeks, he signed up 250 people who pay $99 apiece for an annual subscription to his column. Each year, more than 1 million new businesses are started in this country, many of them out of necessity. That describes Alicia Silsbury, who was forced to start her own maid service in Houston after her husband lost his tire business following an illness.
The hardest part is past. Now is, I want to enjoy my business now.
There is one sobering fact in the midst of all this success. Most new businesses fail in the first 5 years. But Skip Bayless doesn't have time to worry about that now. He's on his way to the Super Bowl. Got to get that next column written and faxed to his readers. Jim Cummins, NBC News, Dallas.
Wall Street today, stock market closed mixed in moderate trading.
I'm really sorry I'm late.
Late? We're having coffee.
Taster's choice. Just in time.
You know, everyone except...
We've met.
We, share the same taste in coffee.
Savor the sophisticated taste of Taster's Choice.
Are you always late?
Not tomorrow.
What happens tomorrow?
I'm inviting you to dinner.
What makes you think I'll accept?
You can't resist my coffee.
To get rid of her gray, my wife can spend 40 minutes. But I discovered the 5-minute hair coloring.
The revolutionary discovery called Just for Men from the leader in men's hair coloring. Simply apply Just for Men and in 5 minutes shampoo out.
Gray is blended away. The look of my natural color is back in 5 minutes. That was me, and it won't fade or wash out.
My hair takes forever, but you look great in just 5 minutes.
The look of your natural color in just 5 minutes with Just for Men.
This winter, the cost of heating is surprisingly low, thanks to Cream of Wheat, a hot, nutritious breakfast for as little as 10 cents a serving. Cream of Wheat, also available in instant. Turn up the heat for less.
Call me a trendsetter, but I was eating wheat thins before people knew why they were baked and not fried. Now everybody knows who needs a greasy chip, right? Besides, wheat thins are delicious. Delicious is still in, isn't it?
If your feathers have been ruffled by downdrafts in the market, get on board something big, safe, and secure. Get Net. It pays.
Paul, you shoveled the driveway already? Oh, your back's hurting again? You need Motrin IB. Works great for backaches. You take the Motrin, I'll finish the driveway.
Motrin IB, the relief of Motrin in non-prescription strength.
Europa, Europa, a foreign film, was not widely distributed here last year, but where it did play, audiences and critics loved it. But not the German government, and therein lies the controversy. NBC's Martin Fletcher tonight.
For 40 years, this man's guilty secret burned inside him. When Solomon Perel was finally able to face his past, it became a book, a movie, and now a Hollywood scandal. The film, Europa, Europa, shows Perel's battle for survival through the Holocaust. A young Jew, he was able to join the Hitler Youth and lived.
Sieg Heil! Sieg Heil!
The nominees for Best Foreign Language Film.
In America, his story won the Golden Globe for Best Foreign Movie. It's a hot favorite for the Oscar, or would be.
And the winner is Europa, Europa!
The only trouble is Germany hates the movie and won't submit it.
I certainly didn't like the movie, no.
Rolf Tyson, who's on the German Selection Commission, calls it a soap opera.
The film deals with a very interesting subject on a rather superficial way.
Heil Hitler! Heil Hitler! Wie erkennt man einen Juden?
In America, the German language movie wins awards, yet in Germany, hardly a movie theater has shown it. Why?
Because I think that it's difficult to many people till now to admit this kind of the truth.
In his Hitler Youth School, Perel was put forward as a fine example of Aryan youth. The subject of the class, how to recognize a Jew.
Sieht man noch genau die typisch arischen Merkmale.
Nobody did.
Lass die Messer blutschen in den Judenleib.
The Germans won't put it in for an Oscar, but Solomon Perel likes his movie. It helps pass on his message that for many Germans is still hard to swallow. Don't forgive, don't forget. Martin Fletcher, NBC News, Berlin.
That's Nightly News for this Monday night. I'm Tom Brokaw. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Coming up on your 24-hour news source.
Governor Branstad will deliver his proposed budget to the legislature tomorrow. It won't include any major tax increases, but there will be some tax increases. I'm Tom Hauser. I'll have that story.
These Osceola students are in a classroom crunch. Their former school has been shut down.
These stories, and we'll have a live report from the City Council. The issue tonight, handling police brutality complaints. Also, remembering Martin Luther King. All these stories and more just ahead.
The Iowa Lottery's heated things up. Iowa's $100,000 cash game has emerged. The daily game with a daily chance for you to win up to $100,000 at once. Win by matching 2, 3, 4, or all 5 numbers drawn in any order from a total of 35. It's green early with Iowa's $100,000 cash game. Sales start January 26th for the first drawing January 27th. Mercy Hospital is a major cancer center with everything needed to treat cancer. The most advanced technology, the most sophisticated techniques, highly talented cancer specialists, everything you'd expect from a leading cancer center. But Mercy also offers something more that's hard to put your finger on, but easy to get your arms around.
You're invited once again to join us at Mr. B for our twice-a-year clearance sale.
You'll discover savings throughout the store during the special clearance event.
Now at Mr. B, you'll save on suits and sport coats by Hard Chapter Marks, Corbin, Austin Reed, and Southampton.
You'll find a complete selection of women's suits, blazers, blouses, and casual clothing.
And as always, every purchase is tailored to fit by one of Mr. B's 6 full-time tailors.
So visit us at Mr. B during our twice-a-year clearance sale,
where you'll get great prices and service to match.
You're watching WHO TV 13 Des Moines, your 24-hour news source. And now, John Bachman, Kim Kerrigan, Rick Silvestrini with sports, and meteorologist Gary Amble with tonight's forecast. This is News Center 13 at 6.
Good evening. By this time tomorrow, lawmakers will have in their hands a budget plan.
The budget proposal will come from the governor, the first step in what's expected to be a long and heated spending debate. Today, Governor Branstad met with legislative leaders to discuss the budget. The governor has said that his budget proposal won't include any major tax increases, but there will be some tax hikes. Mr. Branstad will present his $3 billion budget tomorrow at the State House.
And we'd like to know what you think about a possible tax hike. Our unscientific In Touch poll is open. Today's question, would you support a tax hike in order to balance the state budget? To vote, you call 246-5600, then you punch in category 8000 for further voting instructions. And here are some results from our Live at 5 show. 30% of those calling say yes, they would support a tax increase, while 70% say they would not support a tax increase to balance the budget. We'll have preliminary results a little later in this show.
He's been in the legislature for 20 years, but Senate Majority Leader Bill Hutchins has had enough. Hutchins announced today that this session will be his last. He cited his wife's long-term health problems and even his own recently.
I had a few minor health problems myself last fall. We just talked it over and decided it's time that we better start looking at the rest of our lives and what we want to do with it.
Among the frontrunners to succeed Hutchins as Majority Leader, Wally Horn of Cedar Rapids and Michael Gronstel of Council Bluffs. Another member of the legislature is lowering his political aspirations for lack of money. Representative Glenn Jesse, a Democrat from Mitchellville, has pulled out of the race for his party's nomination in the new 3rd Congressional District. Jesse says it's been too difficult to raise campaign money, and his departure leaves 2 announced candidates, Secretary of State Elaine Baxter and Norwalk lawyer Rod Powell. The incumbent Republican is Jim Ross Lightfoot.
Some Osceola students on the move, literally from one building to another. Their school was closed for good on Friday, and as News Center 13's Mary Mills tells us, they're now in classroom limbo until a new school is built.
When students returned to North Elementary, they didn't return to their normal classrooms. Instead, these 5th graders headed to the add-on cafeteria at the back of the building.
I keep trying to
stick my hands under the table because it's not a desk, and it's just really different.
First, at the beginning of the year, we had to be in the library. Then we moved to the our regular classroom. Now we're back here. Then we won't have to move to our regular classroom again.
It's been confusing for their teacher, too.
Finding things. You try to plan a project, and the next thing you know, you don't have all your things. People coming in and out.
The reason for all the shuffling? North Elementary has been condemned. The students had to be moved, some here, some to other schools. In this, it looks like a church, but for the next 4.5 months, it will be doubling as a school as well. It's now home to the rest of the 5th graders.
There's a difference between...
I like the other classroom sort of better because you got a lot of room and we had a library. It's small over there.
But others are relieved.
I was kind of scared when they said that we were going to just stay in there without the other classes.
As for what happens next?
Well, we have a bond issue coming up on February 18th that we hope will pass and help build some more classrooms to replace this building. Otherwise, it'll just kind of be the business as of today.
Which means classes scattered throughout town. In Osceola, Mary Mills, News Center 13.
That bond referendum has gone before voters before. It's failed 5 times in the last 4 years. As we told you at the top of the show, Governor Branstad expected to give his budget over to legislators tomorrow. He's met with legislative leaders a few times to put some final touches on this budget.
News Center 13's Tom Hauser was at the State House today. He joins us now to tell us what we can expect in the governor's budget. Tom?
John and Kim, the governor concluded a meeting with legislative leaders about 2 hours ago at the State House. He's trying to form a consensus before delivering his final budget plan. But the governor is finding out there's no easy way to erase the state's budget deficit. Senate Majority Leader Bill Hutchins and other legislative leaders met behind closed doors with Governor Branstad. They discussed the governor's plans for erasing the state's $338 million budget deficit.
The public would rather see us working together to solve our budget problems and save our campaigning for after the session.
They may be working together, but there are still disagreements over some of the governor's proposals, like his plan to slow the rate of growth in education spending next year. Representative Jack Hatch says it amounts to a deep cut in education.
It is a cut in education. So anything he does now to cut education is a significant cut to their present budgets, which means they have to either cut their programs or raise property taxes.
The governor promised in his condition of the state speech last week that there will be no major tax increases. But in his budget plan, he's expected to call for a 10-cent cigarette tax increase and possible expansion of the sales tax to include some services.
Cigarette tax to me is not fair. It hits a small part of our population, and it's everybody's problem. And if you expand the sales tax, again, you're just looking at a piece at a time. If we're going to do something, I think everybody should have to contribute.
And a couple of things we will not see in the governor's proposal tomorrow, any major income taxes, and there will be no new forms of gambling proposed to help pick up some more revenue. The governor, again, will deliver that to the legislature tomorrow, and of course, we'll have much more on this story tomorrow.
All right, thank you, Tom, very much. 4 children from Dickeyville, Wisconsin, laid to rest today. The church was packed with friends and family of Karen and Jeff Jensen. The couple buried their 4 children today, 3 brothers and their sister, ranging in age from 3 to 9. The children died early Friday morning when fire swept through their rural home just northeast of Dubuque. The children were in the upstairs bedrooms and they could not get them out. Their parents were not able to get the children out at the time. As we said, all died from smoke inhalation.
A Knoxville highway closed most of the weekend is open tonight. The roadway had been shut down because of a fuel spill. As we told you last Friday, the truck full of ethanol fuel overturned, forcing the Department of Natural Resources to close a section of Highway 5. Crews worked on the spill the past few days and opened the road today. However, there may be some long-term damage to soil at the site. $45 million of pure cocaine traveling through Des Moines, and narcotics authorities knew all about it. Over the weekend, a Nebraska state trooper made the largest drug bust in that state's history. Nearly 600 pounds of cocaine confiscated from a semi-truck headed from California to New York. Authorities made the bust at a way station near North Platte, Nebraska. They then resumed the drug run on their own, traveling through Des Moines on Interstate 80 last night. And late today, DEA agents nabbed the drug dealers at the receiving end in New York.
When the news continues, a day to remember Martin Luther King.
We shall overcome.
At the Capitol today, folks joining in song to pay tribute to the slain civil rights leader.
And the Des Moines City Council discussing the merits of a citizens review board on police officers. I'm Kathy Saltero. I'll have a live report coming up.
I've been eating A.E. cottage cheese for years. Some people think it's just for diets, but I'm smarter than that. Mommy and Daddy serve it with lots of foods that I can't even pronounce. But I like it right out of the carton. And in case you didn't know, the small critters were made in small cottages, and the large critters were made in large cottages.
A.E. cottage cheese. It's not just for diets anymore.
I knew that.
Harlan Meyer talks about timed-release bullet herbicide.
We had an early dry spring. We had then a very wet spring. Then we had a very dry summer. And we had just excellent performance.
So what's the program this year, Harlan?
I told my sons, you're going to buy all bullet if I'm going to apply it.
Encapsulated timed-release bullet. Season-long control from clean till to no-till. Just ask Harlan.
I think bullet is the best product that you could use.
It's the Dodge Drive for the Gold sales drive. Now own Shadow America for only $69.84, thanks to 1,000 cash back. 1,000 on Dynasty, plus factory-to-dealer incentives could save you even more. Up to $2,000 cash back on select Dodge trucks, and package savings up to $26.83.
See your local Dodge dealer today.
I've got to sit down. My legs are killing me. It's these varicose veins.
Maybe now you'll listen to me and go to the Iowa Vein Center.
Iowa Vein Center offers men and women relief from the discomfort and pain brought on by varicose and spider veins. The treatments are virtually painless, are performed in our office, and are covered by many insurance companies. If varicose veins are keeping you from leading a full, natural life, call Iowa Vein Center today, 285-VEIN.
News Center 13 at 6 is closed caption for the hearing impaired.
Possible solution to a controversial issue dealing with allegations of police brutality.
The Des Moines City Council is tackling the issue tonight with the help of some state lawmakers. This comes on the heels of the Larry Milton beating incident from last month. News Center 13's Kathy Saltero joins us now live from City Hall. And Kathy, what's going on there tonight?
Well, Kim, this is almost like round two of the Larry Milton incident being discussed here at City Council. You'll recall a couple weeks ago, it was crowded here at City Council with people concerned about the Larry Milton incident. And tonight, once again, because there have been concerns about how they're going to review police procedures, there have been a lot of police officers that showed up for this meeting. Representative Jack Hatch has proposed that the City Council meet with him and Representative Tom Baker later this week to discuss the review procedures for police officers. Hatch is concerned about a citizens review board and public hearings that have been centered around the Larry Milton incident. There were many officers that were crowded into the building tonight, also flooding out into the City Hall area where they set up monitors once again so people could watch the hearings and hear the different comments. Of course, they heard both sides to the issue, and right now the City Council is discussing how they're going to handle this. So later on tonight, we will have results of this hearing and let you know it tonight at 10.
All right, we'll look forward to that. Thank you, Kathy, very much. A special day across the United States for a special individual as Americans reflect on the teachings of Martin Luther King, Jr. The Iowa Liberty Bell on the Capitol grounds toll at noon, marking the birthday of Dr. King, just one of many King Day celebrations taking place across the state. The Let Freedom Ring ceremony concluded with a musical tribute to honor the slain civil rights leader who fought for peace and equality.
A Grinnell woman who gained national attention for going public with the story of her rape is now going around the country promoting her new book on the ordeal. Nancy Ziegenmeyer was on NBC's Today Show this morning and said the assault made her a better person.
It made me grow up a lot. I had all of these grown-up ideas, but don't know if I had the courage to follow them through. And suddenly I realized that I wasn't going to live forever. Bad things did happen, and that I needed to start doing these grown-up things.
Ziegenmeyer's book, Taking Back My Life, has received mixed reviews. It's now available at local bookstores. And still ahead from your 24-hour news source, the forecast from meteorologist Gary Campbell.
And Gary says look for warm weather most of the week.
That's right. For a change, we get back to, above normal. That's the way it's going to stay. I think you're going to like this forecast, and it's coming up next.
Come on and neutralize your body. Come on, neutralize your mind. What you've got to do is make a phone call. 7 simple numbers, that's all. Oh, yeah. Neutralize your life.
Nutricize now and pay just $1 for each pound you need to lose at Nutrisystem. Call 1-800-766